Jedno mjesto ima tu ako je neko voli. Dok speaker ćemo na engleskom. So, first of all, my name is Stjepan and I just wish you a warm welcome for coming here tonight, and I just give a few introductory words before our main speaker. So, for the... For those people that are here for the first time, I just say what is Tinel and why Tinel. So Tinel is a meetup organized by the Locasti company for the sake of sharing knowledge, connecting people, and strengthening the local communities of developers, designers, product managers, and owners in Split. I'm sorry if I missed someone. Tinel comes from the Dalmatian word for living room, and we chose that word because we wanted everyone to feel just like at home. None of this would be possible without our Tinel partners, and the first one is Barba. Barba is our beer partner, and they brew the finest beer in the city. Our new partner is Marvi Hotel, and they are providing accommodation for all our future speakers. Our dessert partner is Biberon Cakes, and as their name says, they can make some fine cakes, and be sure to take a slice after the talk. As usual, our stream partner is Startup Hire, and if you came here without a car, be sure to use this promo code to get a 25% discount for your ride home. So we've been really busy throughout those past holidays, and we were able to arrange a couple of next Tinels. Our upcoming Tinel is named Dear Developer, It Isn't About You, and by Charlie Owen. She's a developer in Springer Nature based in Berlin, and she's going to talk about how to build a resistant and reliable website, and how to overcome problems like old devices and slow internet connections. Some of the names that are going to meet us here at the upcoming Tinels are Feroz. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to. Okay, Ryan Townsend and Zaharenia and Marco Pivetta. And finally, the theme tonight is UX for Everyone by Aga Naplocha. So it's sure thing that everyone has sometimes found an app that was really awful to use. Maybe it had a really long form to fill, and maybe you searched for that submit button for a couple of minutes. And even if you have find it, you found out that only the text was clickable. So tonight's subject is user experience and user interface. And the expert on the subject tonight is Aga Naplocha. Can you give her a... And, she is a visual designer and front-end developer at Adobe. And besides her daily job, she is also the co-creator of the Awesomes organization, an organization that helps people create awesome things on the web. They are organizing meetups and courses for the people in Warsaw. She spoke at many conferences and meetups across Europe, but she says that she still has that stress from public speaking. So let's just give her another applause to make it easier.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for such a cool introduction. I think that the stress is lower right now, but I still don't like public speaking, so please forgive me if I make any mistakes. I can see there are so many people. It's cool. So hello, Tinel meetup. It's my first time in Croatia, so I'm super excited. It's my first time in Split, and you've got amazing city. I love it. It's beautiful, and the weather. Oh my God, it's the best weather in the world, because in Warsaw, where I live in Poland, it's about 0 degrees and it's very gray and gloomy. So here we've got sun for almost the whole day. It's amazing. So I'm very energetic, and now I should switch to my slides. Just give me a minute. Yeah, I just need to mirror the separate display. Almost there. And like. Yes, so these are my slides. So as Stefan said, we're going to talk about user experience, and the title is, I don't know, can everyone see the slides? I don't know where I should stand, maybe here? Oh, I think it's the best place. There, okay. It's the fixed place for the speakers. So yes, user experience for everyone. If you have any questions or suggestions, you would like to tell me something, you can use my Twitter handle. You can use hashtag #TinelMeetup and UX for everyone. And personally, I'm an organizer as well. And I know that it costs a lot of energy, so if you could shout out for the organizers and use the hashtag, post something on the internet, it will be great. And by the way, I'm super thankful for the invitation. So Tony, thank you, and the whole team. It's really nice to be here. Okay, so Stefan already introduced me. Yeah, I'm coding designer at Adobe. We have not a very big office in Warsaw, but it's cool to work for such a big company. And apart from working at Adobe, I also have my organization. We started together with Marta, so you can see Marta in me. But she decided to follow her career. So now I'm developing the Awesomes only myself. We already organized 3 workshops for beginners. We taught people how to code in HTML, CSS, but we also have our meetups in Warsaw and Poland. And by the way, the slides will be available under this URL. Probably tomorrow. If not tomorrow, this means that I'm walking around Split, but you can drop me an email just to remind me about it. Hopefully I'll remember. Yes, so this picture is from our workshops. And if you'd like to talk about the community issues, I'm here to help as well. So now let's begin with the presentation. I would like to ask you to think about the moment when you were frustrated doing something online, using the website or using the mobile app. What was it? What was the pain point? What was very annoying? And when I'm thinking about this issue, I think that it was like 2 weeks ago when I was trying to bought a ticket to Iceland. I'm going to Iceland, I'm super excited. But it wasn't very smooth. Actually, it was a very bad experience because I was using Wizz Air, you know, low budget airlines. And together with my friend, we wanted to book them as fast as possible because Wizz Air had a discount. So I was one of the first. I was opening the website, you know, filling in all the information, and I was on the very last step. So the only thing that I had to do was paying for the tickets. But unfortunately, my credit card doesn't want to work with the system, and it was pretty strange because usually there's no such a problem. But you know, something happened. So I wanted just to do the bank transfer because there is an option when you try to book airline tickets. But unfortunately, nothing happened. So I was very stressed because I knew that many people want to book the tickets and the discount might be lost. But unfortunately, nothing happened. So I needed to refresh the page. And of course, I lost the low price. So at that time I was very angry, and it turned out that all my friends have booked the cheaper option. So I was the only one that was unlucky. And in the end, I had to ask my boyfriend because I was so panicking and nothing couldn't work. So in the end, my boyfriend booked the tickets for me. In the end, I lost time because I needed to refresh the page, fill all the data once again. I lost my nerves and I lost money because I had to pay more than my friends. And it was something that I was really annoyed about. So as you can see, user experience is very important. I'd say that it's critical for our products, for the website, for the services. And this is why this is good to be aware of the good practices, and even if you're not a developer, even if you are not a designer, it's good to know what we can do to make the experience better. So yeah, at that time I looked like this monkey. I wanted to throw my computer away. So in the end, user experience designer wants to transform this experience to something like this. So it's very smooth and seamless. There might be a situation that you stumble upon such very strange things where instead of just typing the expiration date of your credit card, which is like only 4 numbers, you have to use the drop down and look for the appropriate numbers. And this is very annoying and takes a lot of time. And another example is that you need to select your number phone using drop down. I haven't seen it in real life. I think it's a joke, programmer's joke. But to be honest, well, it can happen. So this is like a hardcore example. And I'd like to encourage you to, whenever you see something strange on the user interface, just do the screenshot and upload it somewhere in the social media using #UXFails. There are so many strange things happening, although we're in the 21st century. So user experience is a very broad topic. It includes different domains: psychology, design, visual arts, and programming as well. So as you can see, it includes information architecture, content strategy, interaction design, research, user interface design, and usability. I'll be talking mainly about interaction designer and research a little bit. But if you'd like to explore these other topics, I can give you some interesting links and resources. So typically the UX process looks like this. We should start with the research, which usually is avoided by most of the companies because they say they don't have money. Frankly speaking, you don't need to have a lot of money to start with the basic research, and I'll be talking about it later on. So when you do the research, when you start talking to the user, when you actually find out whether the problem you're trying to solve really exists, or maybe there are already solutions on the market, you can go to the next stage, which is concept. So you started to do the brainstorming session with the client, with developers, designers, and try to look for the appropriate solution and the form of the solution. And later on, designers do the prototypes. We can prepare various forms of prototypes just using pen and paper. We can use mockups and wireframes. We can use programs like UXP, like Adobe XD. There are many options. Later, when the prototype is more or less prepared, it goes to visual designer. But before, we actually should test it with the potential users to check whether our assumptions are correct. And there is no such thing like the test should be the very last stage. Actually, we should do the testing all the time. We can also do the test with just a piece of paper, so we don't have to be fully prepared with a beautiful design. And real life is very chaotic, so usually the UX process is not that linear. It's an iterative process, so we can get back to stage that we feel that we need to step back and do it again, look for the answers, and sometimes there are pivots because our assumptions were wrong. And I would like to start with the theory, and these are the 10 heuristics by Jacob Nielsen. Has anyone have heard of it? About this? There are some people. Cool. This is something that I think that every UX designer should know. And this is like the Decalogue, the 10 commandments for user experience. And whenever you ask someone, whenever you ask UX designer to do the audit of your product or project, they usually will take a look into these 10 things. So the first one is visibility of system status. What does it mean? That we should always show the user what's the progress, what's happening. The example where here we've got, here we've got the sky scanner. And as you can see, you've got the spinner, and it's written how many airlines were already checked. So as a user, I know what's happening. If we didn't have it, it would be like blank page. The user will be very impatient because we've got the spinner, because we've got the status, how many results, for how many long we have to wait. It's a good sign. So this is why you can stumble upon the progress of the installment of during the installation of the programs. The next one is match between system and the real world, meaning that we should communicate with the user his or her language, meaning that we don't want to serve the communication with like machines, but we want to use their natural language, and we need to present that information in a natural, logical flow. For instance, everyone is familiar with trash icon because we have it in real life, and this is why it's so easy for us to just grab a file and remove it. And there is also nice indication that whenever trash is filled, you can see the rubbish that they are in. So the user instantly knows that he or she should erase it. The third one is user control and freedom. So the example, probably if you're typing and using your mouse very fast, sometimes it might happen that by mistake you put something to the rubbish, you delete something by mistake. This happens to me all the time, and I really love this Google's on Gmail this dialog where you can undo the action. So always remember that users should have the escape, because to err is human do mistakes. So it's important to remember about it. The fourth one, consistency and standards. Well, no examples for this, but this is kind of obvious. If we take into consideration Google's products and remove the Google's logo, you instantly know that it's from Google because they're consistent among all the platforms, and they keep the standards. Error prevention. So we should avoid keep the user away from errors if it's possible. For instance, I was doing the typo, but I've got the suggestion immediately. Here's as well, it's on Gmail. I was looking for my booking, for the information about my booking my flight, and yeah, here's it. And a really interesting case when you, I don't know whether you've ever seen this, but if you try, you'll get it for sure. I was typing to someone that I'm attaching the file, but I forgot to attach the file, which happens very often. And I got this dialog at Gmail that, hey, that it seems like you forgot to attach the file. So this is the error prevention. Next one, recognition rather than recall. Well, we should not force the user to remember every details because, you know, our memory is very precious and we need to memorize many facts during the day. So, for instance, here on Bing search, you've got all the previous search that you were searching for. The next one is flexibility and efficiency of use. So your interface should be ready for different types of users, for both novice, for the users that appeared for the first time on your website, and for experts, for already experienced. So the example is with Google. We have very good products. So if you look for the image on Google Images, if you just want to preview the image, you just use this interface and the input. But if you'd like to get something more specific, more advanced, more details, you can you can use the filters. So it's more for advanced users, and it's flexible. The eighth one is aesthetics and minimalist design. Less is better, and we need to hide irrelevant information just to show the most important thing to the user. Again, because we want to minimize the cognitive load, so we want to save our memory for more important thing. And you know, the best example is Apple. And their shop is very clean. If you want to order something out there, you are not lost because you know where you are at which point, what's next. It's very simple, but at the same time eye-pleasing. It's very it has, in my opinion, very high aesthetics. And nine, it's help user recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors, which is just like, yeah, help users don't leave there without any rescue. And then 10th, the help and documentation. Whenever something might be difficult for them to understand, just give the information, show the legend. You have plenty of space to display the important information. And here's the form, and if someone doesn't know what to fill there in, they have the clue. So as you can see, there are some buzzwords, might say, like visibility, freedom, consistency, and all these points look like kind of obvious if you think about it. But if you are going to take your project, your product, your website, and start analyzing all those heuristics, you'll see that there are some points where you should pay attention to. So it's good to remember about them. And if you would like to explore more UX laws, there is a great website which just launched, I think, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And it's really nice, and you can just explore more interesting things about user experience and these are mostly laws from psychology. Okay, so now let's start with the interaction design. And when we're talking about interaction design, it's not only connected with the digital products or the user interface. I recently read a very interesting article on Medium about subway in New York City. And back in the days, they used coins to get to the subway. So they just put the coin to the slot, and they heard the sound of a falling coin. And this was the action and reaction feedback loop, which is very important when we are talking about interaction design. But later, they decided to introduce swipe cards, so there were no longer coins and no longer the sound of falling coins to the slot. And people were very angry with it. Although they didn't have to carry coins, they have just one card. It turned out that people were so adjusted to this interaction, so adjusted to the sound, because they immediately knew that, well, the coin is in the slot, so I can get in. So it's very important to think about interaction also when you work on the physical product. And I have a question for you. Which button do you think do you perceive as clickable? Right. So the blue one, right? This one. Yes. And I will tell you why in a minute. Why it's happening like that. These are because affordances and signifiers. So, affordances, these are, they define what actions are possible, what are the function of the object, what they can do, and in general, the function should speak for itself. And signifiers, these are signs and signals which actually specify how people can discover these affordances. Okay, let's put into more simple language. So if we have blue underline for the link text, we know that signifier is this blue underline, because this is the sign, and the affordances is that it's clickable. This is the same for these buttons, that this blue outline, this blue background, it's a signifier, it's a signal for us that we can click there. And the affordances is that the function of the button, so it can be clickable. And these terms, they appeared, it was coined by Gibson. I think that he was a psychologist. But they were, let's say, more popular thanks to Don Mormon. He's a psychologist, he's a designer as well. He wrote a very interesting book. I'll be talking about it just in a minute. So affordances and signifiers are everywhere. You can grab a bottle and this blue cup, you know that you need to twist it. So this is a signifier. And the affordances is that you can twist and open the bottle. We've also got hinge doors, meaning that we've got the sign that you can push and pull the doors and you know that it will be open or closed. And we've got the stairs, so we can ascend and descend. And well, sometimes it happens that you want to open the door and you want to give a tug the handle of the door, but actually instead of going to towards yourself, it goes the different direction. And actually, I had a situation in a hotel. I was trying to open my room with the card, and was trying to push the doors to myself, but it occurred that you need to push it the other way. And I was stuck for 5 minutes, and one lady just saw me. I was like, oh my god. Like, yeah, it happened. But it's about, like, you know, bad experience. It's about badly designed affordances and signifiers. So you know that if there is for instance, the flat plate, you know that you need to push the doors, and when you can see the handle, you know that you need to pull the doors. So I really recommend you to play with this concept of affordances and signifiers and look at the objects around you and guess, like, what is the affordances, what are the signifiers. It's fun. And I read a really interesting article on Medium about affordances and signifiers in mobile interfaces, and I stumbled upon this picture, and I think it's really nice that someone who was designing this part of the interface added this arrow, which shows to the user where is the gas tank. So if you're, for instance, renting a car and you're not familiar with it, you instantly know on which side you need to tank the car. So this is very simple but very helpful. So yeah, this is the book that I was mentioning. I really recommend you to read it, especially for the, let's say, people who are inspired by user experience, but people who are not professionally doing this. And I bet that after reading this book, you will start looking at the everyday objects with a totally new perspective. Okay, so talking about UX, it's also very important to talk about learnability. So we designers need to use widely known patterns. And if you look at the most famous websites, products like YouTube, like Pinterest, you can see that everyone uses the same patterns. Like we have grid, we have tiles, we have cards with the images. It's because the users are accustomed to it. So there's no point of reinventing the wheel and doing some crazy stuff. It's better to stick to the fixed concepts. And there are many websites gathering all the good practices and the patterns. One of them is Pattern Tab. So if you'd like to design something and look, for instance, for how the text should like, how they should be presented, how the accordion should like, you've got the great resource out there. And when talking about learnability, this is a difficult word. Google works on material design, so lots of their products, not only there, but any other use material design, so user also is more familiar with some UI elements. And now let's turn to something, let's go to something more specific, which are web forms. And I'd like to show you some best practices. And it can be a very profound topic as well, but I think that I picked the most interesting things out there. So, I'll be showing you 3 versions of the same form. So the first one is that labels are top aligned. As you can see, this is the label, and it's top aligned. It's above. It's above the field. Here we've got the other option, which is labels that are right aligned. So they are stick to the right side of the fields. And left aligned, as you can see, they're aligned to the left side, not to the right side. And I have a question. Which one do you think is the fastest to fill in? Double line. Yes. So I'll tell you why. This is because the user goes from top to bottom, and usually when we read something on the web, we just give one eye, it's called fixation, it's a specific movement of the eye, one eye fixation along this vertical line. So we just give here it's fixation, the next line, and the next line. So it goes like this, and we scan through the form. So it's very easy because thanks to our eye, one eye fixation, we can actually see the label and we can start typing in. So we're seeing what we're typing in. In this example, it's a bit slower because we need to change a little bit the way we look at the form, because we need to see the label and then look on the right side. So it's a bit slower than the first example. And the third one is the slowest one, because you've got the space between the labels and between fields. So you need to do the bigger fixation, bigger eye movement. And of course, this example, this alignment has some advantages, disadvantages, because it takes more vertical space. As you can see, it requires more vertical space than these 2 examples. But everything depends what you want to achieve. If you want the user to fill the form as fast as possible, pick this type of solution, this type of form. If you'd like the user to spend more time, to be more thoughtful, to be more focused, concentrated on filling the form, this is the best example, because user needs to read, think, and fill the form, fill the field. Yes, and this shows how we read the form. What is the eye movement? So here, as I mentioned, we just need to give one eye fixation and go down. And here we need to make a list to read the whole form. In general, the best practice is to make the form as short as possible. And there's some research is made that if your form is long and if you get rid of some fields which are unnecessary, your revenue will be higher. And I think it was Amazon which did this, but there are many other articles on this topic. So in general, if there's some data that you can, let's say, not maybe guess, but you can fill in yourself, just don't ask user to do this because it takes time. And I think that you already experienced something that you opened the page and you see the registration form and it was so long that you immediately just closed the website. So this is the information. Buttons. So this is another very interesting thing. There are two types, let's say. The first one when we have two actions. Primary, this is the action that we want our user to follow, the most important one. And secondary, so this is something that is not that critical and not that important. But in this example, they are the same. So we say that they have equal visual light. And the second example, we see that this cancel button looks different because it's gray. So this is the signal that it's less important, that is a secondary action. And in this example, there is even no background. So these buttons are different. And here on the web form, you can see that these buttons, this is the bigger part of the image, they look the same. And it's very dangerous and risky for the user because I assume that user wants to preview the form that he or she has filled in. But unfortunately, it's very easy to click clear and our old data will be gone. And filling in the data all over again takes time and takes our energy, and it's not fun, definitely not fun. And what is very dangerous about it is that the clear form is very close to the vertical line that we're following, because usually we're focused on this line. So when you click or do something on the web very quickly and you don't pay attention, you probably will click this button and all your data will be gone. So in this situation, it's very important to remember about visual distinction. And of course, we can align buttons differently. As you can see, there are many different options. There's a distance between them. They're sticks very close to each other. There's the different presentation of the cancel button here as well. And I have a question for you. Which one do you think is the most effective? D. E? Yeah. D or F. D or F. Okay. So according to the research which was made, the most effective is D. It is because the submit button is very close to the line that I already mentioned that we are following. So the primary action is the closest to our mouse cursor. So it's not that easy to do the mistake. And there's the distinction of the button. I'm not sure why this one is not the most effective, but I think they're kind of similar. Yeah, so this is the closer look of the most effective version. And if you would like to explore the topic more, there's one guy called Luke Wróblewski, and he's Polish, I think, but he lives in the US. And he does a lot of research regarding web forms. He also published a book about it. He has many talks on international conferences, and the result of the research he did is very interesting. So really recommend you to check this out. When we have very long form and we cannot change it because we simply require data, we can split the form into the stages, and it's okay. but it's important to remember to showing the progress, where actually is the user, how much time he or she needs to fill in the whole form, what is on the next step. And it's also in line with the heuristics that I already mentioned, that you should always give the visibility of the system, give the status of the system. So remember about doing this. Well, drop-downs, these are not very fortunate type of UI element. If you have more than 6 options, it's better to show them up front, because user doesn't need to click on the drop-down, wait till it will be loaded, and look for the appropriate option. It's much more easier to see all of them once and find the appropriate answer. Drop-downs probably are better for the very long lists, like countries lists, but there's even a better UI element for countries lists that I'll be showing just in a minute. And regarding drop-downs, there were a very fun case that Microsoft decided to change the interface of turning on the computer from this one to the drop-down, and it turned out that fewer people were shutting off their computer. So we're shutting down their computer because it requires I think that 2 clicks, and here it's like it's just choosing one option. So it really has an influence, has an impact on your product. So in general, remember that if you use radio buttons, and it's obligatory required field, show with the default selected. So radio buttons in general, they are just for choosing only one option. If you want to have the possibility to select many of them, use checkbox. So drop down, well, as I mentioned, when you have too few space for radio buttons, when the list is very long, you can use drop down in this case. And suggestions, and this is something that I would like to mention, that suggestions are used, for instance, for the country list. If you started to type Croatia, it just gives you the suggestion, and it's more definitely better from user experience than using a drop-down. And here I would like to also mention issue with required and optional fields. Whenever you've got these 2 on your form, you need to inform the user which one are obligatory and which one are optional. If all of them are obligatory, there is no point of giving the asterisk in every field. It's better just to write that all fields are obligatory, and give the information why they're obligatory. And here's the 2 different layouts for the web form. So on this one, you can see that we've got top aligned labels, and on this one, right aligned labels. And here the vertical rhythm is simple because the I just follows one line, and here is more complicated because I jumps to every line, and it is also because we've got different lengths of the labels. And another very important thing is sensitive information. We don't like to give our telephone number, we don't like to give our address. And when I was traveling to Italy, I wanted to book the ticket, the bus ticket from Bergamo to Milano. And unfortunately, I had to give there my address. And at first, I thought that maybe it's just like a not obligatory thing. But later, I got this beautiful dialogue that, well, please insert your address. And I couldn't get to the next stage without typing it in. And I was wondering why they need my address. I don't know. There's no information on their website. So I was pretty angry and was looking for another bus service. Placeholders. Well, usually you stumble upon forms with labels above or on the left side of the field, but it happens that the designer or developers they put placeholders instead of labels, and it's pretty bad because when you're in the field, the placeholder is gone, so you actually don't know what you're typing. When the form is very simple, okay, you can memorize what's in the field. But when you have many similar fields or fields that require numbers, and you get out of them, well, it's hard to guess what was the initial field. So please don't do this. And if you can, group the fields logically. And it's although it's the same form and we didn't remove any field, from the user perspective, user fields is easier to fill in because it requires less cognitive load, less memorizing. So just do this because it's like more natural for us, for humans. And remember about predictive inputs, especially for the address, because it's much more easier when user can just type just the first characters and later see that several fields are already filled in. It's much more easier and it saves our time. And validation errors. I think that everyone hates when we filled in the form, click submit, and then we got the information that something is wrong. It's much more better to display it, let's say, while we're typing. Of course, it's not good to do this instantly. We need to give it like a timing, like 500 milliseconds, so the system won't be very aggressive with us. But please remember, especially when you work with developers or you're a developer, that inline validation, so the validation that is displayed near the field, it's much more effective. And another thing is designing single and multi-column form. In general, multi-column form is not very fortunately, not very fortunate, because it requires to jump from one section to another. The user loses the rhythm. The user loses the rhythm, and it just spoils the effect. So it's much more better, even if it requires more space. It's better to display everything in a single column. And here's I found a bad example recently. This is the web form is in Polish, but I just translated it. So I wanted to add my name and my last name, but I didn't know whether this is the input or the line under the field. So I was kind of lost, and it took me some time to figure it out. So if you'd like to use such inputs that there are only one line, please do remember about doing unnecessary spaces so that user won't be gone, and maybe it will be better to display placeholder here that this is the place where you should type your first name. Yeah, I didn't know whether it should be up or down. Okay, so now we're done with web forms, I think. And I would like to mention accessibility. Have you ever heard about this issue, notion? What is accessibility? Not many. So accessibility is making things accessible for everyone. If you, I don't know, have one arm, if you're blind, if you have problems with the vision, we designers, we developers, we people responsible for the project, we need to work on such solutions that will make the product accessible for everyone, no exceptions. So sometimes it's popular that designer uses the color to encode an information, but I think that 1 out of 12 men has problem with color blindness, and I think it's really a huge problem. So instead of using only color, we should also add something that will distinct the information, like icon, for instance. So remember about it. Another thing is We love animations, but unfortunately, when there are too many things happening on the user interface, it's not very good as well. And the rule is that something cannot flash for more than twice per second. And it's also from the health perspective and for our eyes and mind. We also have to make sure that on the interface we use the color that have good contrast. And of course, here this gray is not very good, so this is why it's better to use black. And there are many tools on the web where you can check if the colors that you're using have good contrast. And it's all about the web content accessibility guides, which are available online. And I think it's very important especially for designers and developers, to be aware of that. Here's the example from Apple. And unfortunately, Apple fails in this case because this contrast is not very good. Although we can see it and we can read it, it doesn't mean that everyone can do this. Yep. And it's time for exercise. I hope that you're not scared. Do we have pieces of paper? Tony, where are you? We need paper. Yeah, you got it. Perfect. So you also need pen or pencil. You can, if you don't have, you can work in pairs. You can work with people. This is the time to meet each other. So I think that I'll give you 10 minutes. Let's see the timing. Oh yeah. So you need to redesign this form, and frankly speaking, it's not very fortunate. Please take into consideration these things, and you can just draw and don't be afraid of doing this because it's like, you know, doing the sketches. It doesn't have to be very pretty. And you've got like 10 minutes. If you have questions, you can work with me as well. Okay, I'm rather sad that not everyone wanted to do the exercise, but I've seen some people, and thank you for that. Thank you for engaging. So later you can leave your forms, and with my closed eyes, I will pick one, and I have some gifts for you. So it was worth to do the exercise. So this is my answer to this form. Actually, I made some assumptions. I get rid of some necessary things. And as you can see, I decided to do the top alignment of the labels. In general, I grouped the information, so maybe this will be better. You can see that there's a personal data, there's the shipping address, and before it was just like a mass, and there were 2 columns, so one column is much more effective. Of course, the form is a little bit longer and takes more space, but at the same time, it's easier for the user. I don't know what's entry ballot and milers. Probably the user won't know where to find it, so it's good to once again to give the hint. What is this? What is the format of the data? By just giving a hint, and the girls did something like that. So well done. Yeah, if you have the birthday, you can give the calendar picker, the date picker, or you can give the format so user can type in. The same with phone number. We can accept different options, like with 00, with plus, with brackets. So everything depends on developer's side as well. Another thing is that it's mentioned here that all fields are required, so there are no asterisks, but there's no like only one possible solution, so you can also add asterisks to the fields. Another thing is that these 2 checkboxes were required on the form. And the one is that you're giving a permission to getting the marketing materials, and very often users don't like it, so it's good to make it optional and to clearly state that it's optional. And the last thing is having a very clear primary button. So yeah, as mentioned, we've got some heuristics achieved, and yeah. So these are the differences. This forms is like requires a little space, but having, for instance, placeholders in the field instead of labels, it's pretty bad. And I don't know whether I should fill in the first column first or maybe jump, so it's very chaotic. Okay, so let's head to the next part, which is almost the last one.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Question is, why do it that way? I mean, this approach is good, but maybe not on all displays. If you have a 4K display in very narrow font, then you have to scroll it down all the time. Why is better that way than, let's say, put everything on one screen if you know the dimension of the screen? Of course, it's better on the tablet and the mobile phone, but I don't know, you have to scroll it down all the time. I don't think
actually, the first thing, you need to test it, right? Because without test, you can tell. Like, these are our assumptions.
Of course.
So when you test it, you'll see that, for instance, maybe here, it's too long and users are very annoyed by scrolling. So you need to think of a different way, maybe like squeezing some heights, doing less spaces. Maybe you find out that the grouping and the data in that way, it's not very fortunate. So everything has to be tested. This is what I did, like to show you the difference and to show you the good practice. But of course, it's not the only solution that can be applied. In this case, I think that the worst thing is having two columns, and this is very bad, and having placeholders instead of the labels. So these are the two sins that are made here. And of course, we can in general discuss about the whole layout that it's very squeezed. And the times where users were frustrated by scrolling, I think that it's already gone. That we're kind of accustomed to scrolling right now. I think it's natural for us right now. I think for me it wouldn't be a problem, but maybe for other users it might be. So I think that testing will give the answers. So maybe yeah.
But what do you think about adjusting the forms based on the size of the screen?
Well, it depends on the form.
Frameworks are
yes.
giving an easy way for us to do it. So.
Yeah, it depends what types of form. Whether it's very long, maybe it's better to give. If you have mobile like the form that is displayed on mobile, maybe it's easier to do the stages like the steps, and each of the step will be displayed on one screen without scrolling. Maybe this is the solution. Well, it depends how complicated the form is. How complex, whether it's just like a simple registration, maybe something more difficult from the user's perspective requires different data, so it depends. I think that, there is no like the right answer.
Yeah, of course, the testing is the only one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
So research, we're talking about talking with the users about the tests. It's very important, and there is a really nice book by Erika Hall, so I'd like to jump into this topic. I really recommend you. So, as it is stated, that good design, for a design to be successful, it must serve the needs and desires of actual humans and our users, not the CEO, not the designer, just the humans. And if you don't have money for the research, for testing, I think that Galera usability testing is something for you. It means that you grab the prototype, for instance with this form, you grab the piece of paper or the tablet, whatever you have, whatever is possible. You go to your colleagues, you just get out of your room and ask people to test it. You just do the observation, ask them to think out loud so you know what were the problems. You can give them chocolate instead, so in favor. So it will be much more easier to recruit the participants. And please don't ask questions like do you like it or do you think it's usable? Because people will say that yes, I like it, yes, I think it's very nice. Please ask open questions where people can just create actually a story, a vision, and I think it's a great way for you for the inspiration, for the ideas for the product. And I didn't mention that research is very important, and for instance, Facebook, they organize 2G Tuesdays, and it means that every Tuesday they meet with very lower bandwidth, 2G on their mobiles, so everything loads very slow, and they want to check how people from different countries who are not that happy with their internet, how they will use Facebook and how everything will look like on such a slow internet. So it's worth testing, it's worth thinking about different people, not only us. And if you would like to get more info about easy and affordable user testing that doesn't require a lot of money, there is a really nice talk by Ida Allen. I saw her in Warsaw in May, and it's available online, so you can watch it if you're interested. And the last part, hopefully you're still awake, dark patterns. And we're not going to talk about Star Wars, unfortunately. I hope we've got some Star Wars fans in here. But we're going to talk about user interface, of course. And what are dark patterns? These are the techniques that encourage user to follow the path that he or she doesn't intend to. follow. Company wants user to subscribe to get the bigger reach, to get the revenue, and they do some nasty things on the interface. For instance, probably you stumble upon something like this when booking flight tickets with Ryanair, and by default, you have to select something, and you just don't want to buy it, but you're looking on the long list, and there's "don't insure me," and it takes a lot of time, and you're frustrated, and it's pretty bad. There are probably many cases when users just give up and buy this insurance. The same with Weezer. This is when I was trying to book a flight ticket, and I saw this option. So I thought, hey, that's cool. That I like sitting near Ale, so I'll book the seat up there. But of course, you have to pay for it. So I wanted to reset this, but the link was here. Let me. Oh yeah. Was here, recent seats, and it's not readable totally. I couldn't find it, so this is that dark pattern as well. Next thing is Airbnb. So when you look for the accommodation, you see the price, and you're very happy because it's in your budget, within your budget, but later on when you're on the very last step of booking something, it occurs that there are cleaning fees, service fees, so in total there is a big difference. And you're, again, angry because it wasn't stated the first step. And there is something like roach model. This is the notion that which means that it's very easy for a user to get in, but very difficult to get out. And it is very infamous example from Amazon with Amazon Prime that just within one click you got this option for free for 1 month or something like that. But later people were charged after this 1 month, so they started to look for the option to quit the program. But it was very difficult, and it was like all over the internet, like how to cancel my subscription, and it was roach model. And another thing, and I think it's ridiculous, you probably use Instagram, and you know the Insta stories, and when you have something on your phone, you just want to, get rid of it, and designer put the fake hair in order to swipe and to open the website of this shop. I think it's just insane. Yeah. And another thing is that you want to unsubscribe, but the unsubscribe button from all these fields doesn't work. It's disabled. Again. And here, someone wanted to unsubscribe. So when you see this, it's like a primary action button, so you want to click it, but it states that, are you sure you want to unsubscribe? Actually, no, I'm not sure. So I won't unsubscribe. So it's like, using tricky words, using misunderstandings in order to achieve something against the user. So this is definitely not fun. This is the end. But not the last thing. I've got some useful links for you. There are plenty of them if you'd like to explore the topics I already mentioned. I'd like to thank you. Again, this is the URL. And I'd like to do a short sum up of all the information I gave you. These were like very different topics from UX, but we can do the repeat by the quiz. So now what you need to do is to grab your mobile phone and have the connection to Wi-Fi or your transmit data. And now I need so you need to open browser and type Kahoot IT. I don't know whether you see it. It's KAHOOT.IT. IT. Yeah, it's like this. This is the address. And give me a second, I need to log in. And there is a price, of course, so if you're attracted by gifts, please play. Oh my god. How is the sign? Yes, with
Shift out and
oh shift okay. Not like could you plug it for me? The different keyboard. I tried with this one. Maybe it will out my password. No, I think that we can try and we'll see if it works. No. Probably I need to. Oh yeah. Anyway, can we have a sound? No. Okay, it's not a problem. It's not. It's okay. Okay, so what you need to do is type the game pin to your phone. Oh, there's music. Yeah, that's cool. I will wait for you. Should I wait for anyone? Can you see your name on the list? Yes? Okay? Okay. So I'm clicking. Okay. So the rules. You will see the questions on the wall, and the answers are on your. You're selecting answers on your mobile by choosing the symbol. So they're not words but the symbol, so you need to like map the answers given there on your mobile. Mostly there's only one answer, right? But if there are more, it's stated on the question that you need to select more. You've got about 20 seconds. Some questions are for a longer time because they're more difficult. And the time counts and right answer counts. So the person who's faster will be higher on the list. And I've got one prize, so you have to beat for it. Okay, clicking start. We've got 7 questions. Okay, so Jacob Nielsen is the right answer. Don Norman is the author of one book. Who's Morten? Congratulations, you're the first one. Okay, up. I don't know whether you can see it. bad answer, sorry.
That's why I answered.
Yes. So it was about a whole sentence. So definitely ritual is not effective when you want to gain trust. These are just three because there is actually primary action pattern. So these three answers are correct. And who's the winner? Oh, congratulations! So, bravo! And if you did the exercise, it doesn't have to be finished. You can give me the piece of card, and I will select one winner because I've got another gift. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'm here, so you can ask me. Thank you.